Minnesota Vikings at the Denver Broncos. Broncos favored by 2.5. Again, Sam, I'm not right about a lot of things. But one shot in the dark that I took was the Broncos defense turning it around. I know what you just saw was the worst defense in NFL history. Yeah. A defense whose EPA per play was twice as bad as the next closest team in the NFL through 5 or 6 weeks or whatever it was. And I randomly predicted they can't be this bad, right? We'll positively regress to the mean here. And they've done that. Denver's turned their defense around against the Chiefs twice and the Bills somehow.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
They're playing good defense at the moment. Like, they haven't just gone from being, it's no longer the worst defense in NFL history, it's somewhere better than that. It's actually good.
Yeah.
It's playing like one of the better defenses in the NFL. It's not, Jets or Browns, but it's a good defense right now.
You know what's also funny is at the time we said somehow the defense was so bad it masked one of the biggest stories in the NFL the last 2 years, which was Russell Wilson's decline.
Right.
And through 4 or 5 weeks, Russell Wilson wasn't that bad. Week 5 was pretty bad against the Jets, but again, everybody's bad against the Jets. Russell Wilson's decline, or the fact that he was playing better this year, got overshadowed by how bad this defense is.
Right.
Now that the defense is playing better, people are like, did you see Russ's stats? He's got 18 touchdowns and 4 picks. Does anybody seen his stats? He's back. Russ is back. Because the defense is back. When the reality is, though, for this entire season, Russell Wilson has played better. There's certainly been some lulls where he disappears. The offense disappears. But they're grinding out the run game, and he's making a few more of those Russell Wilson type of plays, like that great throw to Cortland Sutton the other day.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing this season has been people putting Russ's and Patrick Mahomes' numbers side by side, being trying to make a point. It's just it's kind of funny. My question for this game is this the game where Josh Dobbs turns back into a pumpkin?
Ooh, that's the question, huh?
Well, I like Josh Dobbs. His story is insane. I think he's been playing well in Minnesota, really well when you factor in the situation, right? Like he had to got thrown into a game fresh off the couch, having not even known the offense at all. And he was doing a good job in Arizona, given the circumstance. Like he had them competitive every single game. They were only competitive largely because of him, etc. But one difference, and it doesn't look like a particularly big difference because of the fumbles, but he really hasn't put the ball in harm's way in Minnesota from a passing standpoint yet, right? He has one passing turnover-worthy play so far. No interceptions, one passing turnover-worthy play. And honestly, it wasn't that egregious. It was the weird one where he threw the ball sort of into a double coverage window, and somehow Jordan Addison came out of the other side with it. Like it did go through the hands of the DB. On the other hand, it was a play where another receiver... Nice, yeah, it would have been a nice play by the DB. B, another receiver would have made that into more of a 50-50 ball and gone and taken it away from the DB as opposed to Addison relying on it going through the hands of the DB before he caught it. Anyway, point being, he hasn't really thrown the ball to the defense much, whereas in Arizona, his turnover-worthy play rate was 4%. It was pretty high. He did regularly put the ball in harm's way quite a bit. With this suddenly resurgent Denver defense, is this the game where Josh Dobbs actually has a couple of passing turnovers and the Vikings offense therefore stalls?
You just love killing a good story, huh?
I'm not killing it. I'm saying it's a great story.
You're just posing the question if Josh Dobbs does.
Just asking questions.
On the other hand, where does this Josh Dobbs story go? Because the part that makes it impressive is that he just got picked up by Tennessee randomly and had to go win a must-win game, and almost did against Jacksonville last year. And he gets picked up by Arizona and just becomes the starter within 2 weeks of training camp and makes them competitive after knowing the offense for 2 weeks, and goes to Minnesota knowing the playbook and nobody's names for 3 days and wins a game with a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
And again, we like to always remind people, players don't always just get better. It doesn't, just because you did this thing before doesn't mean you'll keep getting better. But will this actually get better for Josh Dobbs as he knows the offense more? And he's in Kevin O'Connell's done a really good job in Minnesota. Say what you want about luck and likelihood and one-score games and everything. Like, Kevin O'Connell's done a really nice job there. And is this actually going to go the other way? He doesn't have Justin Jefferson yet. And Jefferson's going to be coming back. Is this actually going to go the other way? And Dobbs is going to play like a top 10 to 15 quarterback for the foreseeable future. And all of a sudden, Minnesota is a really dangerous team. This is a great matchup on Sunday night that looked like a horrible matchup.
Right.
Chris and Mike are probably like, oh, man, we're going to be flexing this one in a few weeks. When both teams are sitting there at like 1-8 combined. But here we are, and this is an awesome game from two teams who are playing really well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think that's different from Minnesota this year than previous years is the offensive line is no longer a problem. Like, for years, that Vikings offensive line had been an issue, particularly the interior. Christian Darrisaw, as a first-round pick, like, he's an all-pro caliber left tackle. That's a great move for them. He's a dominant force. Brian O'Neill has been one of the better right tackles in the league since they got him. So the tackles are actually in good spot. But that interior, at least on paper, still looked like an issue, whether it's Austin Schlottman at center, Garrett Bradbury at center. They've gone between Dalton Reisner at guard. Ed Ingram is still there at the other guard spot. Like, that still doesn't look good on paper, but it's actually played pretty well, on paper. It hasn't been a problem at all. And then you add in the Josh Dobbs scrambling factor and rushing threat, like the ability of him to actually carry the ball as part of a designed run game. And sure, they're down running backs. Like, I think they're out of running back. Like, Ty Chandler is going to be the running back singular for Minnesota this week because he's the only healthy one they have, I think. But that combination means they can run the ball better than they've ever run it before because the offensive line works, because they have Dobbs as a factor, and the pass protection is good. Like, they're top 5 in pass blocking efficiency as a line. Where are they? 9th. So top 10, which is way higher than they've ever been in the last few years.
Yeah, and the other part about Minnesota's story this year, I was intrigued by the guys that they – like the underrated players that they've essentially invested in. Cameron Bynum at safety and Josh Metellus as that hybrid safety linebacker type player. Those guys are playing well. And remember, we said they lost a lot of name talent, and it looked like a no-name defense that had no chance, but Brian Flores has done a great job on that side of the ball. After they started slow, they figured some things out. So, yeah, Minnesota, they're hot, they're trending in the right direction. To answer your question about Dobbs, though, to come back, I wanted to give a little counter argument. I don't know how good Dobbs is going to be. There's a chance he's not that great, right? He's an awesome story. There's a chance he's not that great, and he will regress at some point. We'll see what happens here, though. Plus, Denver on the other side, they're leading into that run game a little bit. They're getting enough of that Russell Wilson magic. Like, the formula kind of looks a little bit like the Seahawks days with Russ. Making a few special plays, not carrying the team, just playing efficient, clean ball, making a fourth quarter comeback when you need them. I think that stuff coming together, and maybe, look, we wrote off Sean Payton early in the year too, and it took a little time, but I think he's getting this team back on track as well. I
mean, lost a little bit in that incredible Cortland Sutton toe tap touchdown catch. The throw was really good. Like, that was a beautiful drop into a bucket.
He used to do that to Tyler Lockett all the time, and it felt like, well, only Tyler Lockett's going to make these catches.
Yeah.
And he still does.
But sometimes you get those plays, where we only focus on one element of it. It's like, wow, that was an incredible piece of toe tapping skill. Like, one of the best sideline catches, certainly this year and probably for a couple of years. So we don't even think about anything else that happened on that play. You're like, that's actually an absolute dot to drop that into the bucket where only he can catch it and only leaning half a yard over the sideline.
I would say this might be anecdotal, but I also feel like last year when Russ always felt like he was going to, put a little move on a player or whatever, and he just couldn't do it anymore. I feel like that's happening less often.
He does look visibly more athletic.
Right? It still happens at times, right? There was a busted play the other day. He tried to do too much and got sacked. But he is at least able to make the first man miss a little bit more often than last year. Again, it's not perfect. It's not like prime Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson, but it's an efficient Russell Wilson in this Peyton offense where I think they're kind of finding their groove. I'm loving this game on Sunday Night Football. Where are you going to go with this one? Denver's favored by 2.5 here.
I believe Denver will win and cover.
So here I am buying into the The
The
Josh
Dobbs
Dobbs.
hype.
Yeah, I'm going
The
to buy
Dobbs
into the
train.
Josh Dobbs narrative. Minnesota on the road getting 2.5. They're hot. Not that it matters. Being hot doesn't matter. Bengals were hot last week. Doesn't
Didn't matter.
matter at all. But I'll take Minnesota as the underdogs here.
Okay.